Since the first time we met, my wife has been weaving an intricate web of lies. Every detail, from her identity to her past, from her infidelity to her promises to change, is a part of her elaborate deception. I have confronted her numerous times, trying to catch her in a moment of honesty, but each time, her confessions only revealed more lies. It is clear to me, even without being a therapist, that she has serious issues, possibly histrionic personality disorder and a chronic habit of deception. The symptoms are undeniable. When we first crossed paths, I had just ended a long-term relationship and was seeking something casual. In those days, platforms like Adult Friend Finder were perfect for quick connections. Being financially cautious, I came across her online username and initiated a conversation. Weeks later, we decided to meet for lunch, which went well and led to more dates. She casually mentioned having a male roommate, and at the time, I didn't think much of it. Lost in my own naivety, I didn't feel the need to investigate further. She spoke of her previous marriage ending due to her ex's infidelity, leaving her in a difficult situation that forced her to share a place with a roommate for financial reasons. Early on in our relationship, one night while I was out with colleagues, she called me, deeply upset and inconsolable. That was when she revealed a shocking truth about her past, one that shattered her entire identity. The man she believed was her father, whom I'll refer to as Italian Dad, turned out not to be her biological father. Instead, he was a man her mother was involved with while her real father was in prison. When her biological father was released, he became her uncle, and Italian Dad assumed the role of the father figure. Her real father remained absent from her life while Italian Dad played his devoted part. I was intensely drawn to this woman. She held a bachelor's degree from the same university I attended, albeit a different campus, and she later obtained a master's degree from Columbia University in New York City. After working in her field for some time, she grew tired and shifted to a more manageable job in retail. Our love was genuine, and she decided to take birth control pills to enhance our experiences together. However, everything changed when she informed me that she was pregnant. Being a loyal and honorable man, committed to her, I had already planned to propose marriage. I wanted it to be a perfect moment, an awe-inspiring gesture that would take her breath away. But with the unexpected pregnancy and her fear of me leaving her, I couldn't bear to see her so distraught. Understanding her past struggles and her guilt as an unmarried expectant mother, I realized that waiting for the perfect timing was not an option. Without a ring, in the comfort of our living room while she was in tears, I proposed. It wasn't the grand gesture I had envisioned, but it was what she needed in that vulnerable moment. Our son was born, bringing a newfound energy into our lives and compelling us to establish a new routine. It was a chaotic time, as expected for any new parents, but we made a conscious effort to carve out moments for each other amid the busyness. In the early stages of our relationship, I discovered that she immersed herself in an online chat community known for its provocative conversations. She confessed to being a part of that world for some time and having formed deep connections there. Understanding the human need for a sense of belonging, as I have my own online group, albeit without inappropriate discussions, I trusted her wholeheartedly and even assisted her in creating avatars that suited the theme of the site. Her yearning for emotional intimacy was contagious, and it intensified my own desires. Thus, I had no reason to complain. Nevertheless, the boundaries between acceptable behavior and crossing the line began to blur. Desperate to maintain my wife's happiness, I chose to remain silent about the unsettling things I observed. One of the earliest incidents occurred a few months after our son's birth. When I returned home from a long day at work, I stumbled upon her engaging in self-pleasure in our bedroom. Initially taken aback, I considered joining in, but then I noticed her hastily concealing her phone, engaged in illicit conversations with an unidentified person. I convinced myself that she was merely seeking a passionate escape. However, that memory lingered, etching itself deeply into my mind. In the subsequent years, and even to this day, I have overheard secretive phone conversations where she effortlessly spins captivating tales, fabricating alternative lives for herself and our family, entangling unsuspecting men in her intricate web of fiction. Through closed doors, I catch glimpses of intriguing conversations, where she describes herself as a widow seeking solace in the family's mountain ski cottage, a story she frequently recounts. Astonishingly, this has become her norm. Each time, she slips effortlessly into an alternate persona, captivating these men with partial truths mixed with complete fabrications. Sometimes, she uses real names, while other times, she conjures up entirely fictitious identities. Her stories fluctuate between reality and pure invention, and it remains a mystery how she manages to juggle numerous plot lines and navigate the complexities day after day, often involving multiple individuals. Now let us turn our attention to some recent and truly alarming infractions within the confines of our marital union. 3 years ago, I found myself away for the weekend, visiting some friends not too far from our abode. Normally, on such occasions, which occurred a few times annually, I would spend the night there due to the late hours and sheer exhaustion. Yet, on this particular occasion, an unsettling sensation took hold of me, akin to an incessant itch beneath my very skin. Her behavior and excessive texting, coupled with the unsolicited details she shared about her evening, struck me as unusual. She was unusually chatty, divulging every minute detail of her night. This was not the person I knew. I knew something was amiss. It was approximately 1:30 or 2 a.m. when I made a firm decision. I had to return home that very night. The drive would only take an hour, and a strong cup of coffee would keep me alert. Allow me to recount a specific detail she shared with me. According to her narrative, a friend whom I shall refer to as Jane had paid her a visit that evening. Evidently, Jane had brought along some marijuana with the intention of partaking in a smoking session. Let me clearly emphasize that I have never dabbled in any sort of medication, nor do I endorse the use of any illicit substances, and she knows this truth all too well. In a subsequent text message, she informed me that Jane would be staying the night as she was in no condition to drive. It was around 3 a.m. when I arrived home, and much to my astonishment, there wasn't a single vehicle in the driveway. A quick scan of the street failed to reveal any parked cars nearby as well. Where could Jane's car have disappeared to? Proceeding cautiously into the house, just in case I had missed something or my wife had taken Jane home earlier. My anticipation grew with a nagging suspicion. And there it was, as I had feared. Beside my wife in our shared bed lay a complete stranger, a man whom I had never laid eyes on before. It felt as though my world was crumbling, hurtling toward an inevitable demise. Seeking solace, I ventured into my daughter's room. Yes, we already had a daughter by then, but both children were staying with my in-laws for the weekend, which struck me as odd given my absence. Overwhelmed by the weight of it all, I sat on a chair, buried my face in my hands, and spent a good 30 minutes or more contemplating the weighty decision that lay before me. Despite initially appearing composed, I soon realized that maintaining this facade was an impossibility. Determined, I stormed into the bedroom, switched on the light, and unleashed a powerful blow upon the intruder's head. The impact was so forceful that my wedding ring was flung off, causing me to wonder if it held any significance at all. Grabbing him by the legs, I forcefully ejected the stranger from our bed, instructing him to leave immediately. I won't delve into all the minutiae, but reflecting back, it became clear that he had been unaware of her marital status. His genuine surprise at my presence was unmistakable. Given that he hadn't driven to our residence, I reluctantly allowed my wife to drive him home, although I should have insisted he walk or take a taxi. After she returned, we found ourselves in the kitchen, engaged in a conversation that stretched into the dawn hours. She vehemently insisted that nothing inappropriate had transpired, emphasizing that they had merely indulged in substance use and fallen asleep. The perplexing aspect was that I hadn't caught them in the act, providing insufficient concrete evidence to support my suspicions. Strangely enough, the stain on the couch vanished while I was asleep later that day. Furthermore, a honeymoon photograph that had gone missing from our refrigerator inexplicably reappeared. My mind was previously plagued with doubts about her, even before this incident occurred. Certain facets of her life were purposefully avoided in conversations, as I deemed them unimportant and unworthy of sparking conflict. However, the time had come for me to confront her directly, demanding nothing but unfiltered truth. One seemingly trivial matter that had been gnawing at me was the high school she claimed to have attended. Despite her insistence on a specific Catholic school, I found no evidence to support the notion that she had indeed attended the public school in her district, known for its bleak reputation. It mattered little to me which school she had attended, I merely sought the truth. She clung steadfastly to her narrative about the Catholic school. But what troubled me more was the enigma surrounding her former roommate. Over time, I stumbled upon certain information that failed to align with her story, curiously mirroring her ex-husband's life. Confronting her, I harbored suspicion that the presumed roommate was, in reality, her ex-husband. I believed that, unknowingly, I had become the other man, hence unintentionally bringing her previous marriage to a close. With great fervor, she vehemently denied this accusation, offering a rehearsed tale with subtle alterations. In the absence of concrete evidence, I chose to forgive her, convincing myself to rebuild the trust that had been so severely shaken, all for the sake of our relationship and our children. Despite our foundation being severely disrupted, we resolved to forge ahead, determined to persevere. Months later, as fate would have it, I happened to overhear her engaged in a phone conversation, fabricating stories about a family vacation spent in a fictitious ski cottage. The absurdity of it all struck me deeply, given that she had never once participated in the sport of skiing, and her family was facing financial difficulties. Stepping outside of our closed bedroom door, I confronted her, demanding nothing less than the unvarnished truth. Initially, she denied the call, but as I recounted specific details, she couldn't hide her deception. Lying was her go-to defense. On my birthday, I found myself working from home. Coincidentally, she also had the day off. Yet I couldn't help but notice her constant texting, a mystery unfolding before me. How did I stumble upon this revelation? She handed me her phone, showing her inability to cover her tracks effectively. We had separate cell phone accounts but decided to combine them onto one service. Since my carrier offered a better deal, we planned to transfer her number to my account. While at home, we initiated the transfer, meaning her phone would be temporarily out of service. As I backed up her old phone to save her contacts and pictures, I received text messages from an unknown number not saved in her contacts. The porting process took a few hours, causing her impatience as she was reluctant to stop her conversations with the new guy. After the porting process, a flood of text messages poured in, prompting her to respond vigorously, even sending hundreds in a single day. Unaware that my plan didn't include unlimited texting, I discovered hefty charges when checking our account usage the next day. Confronting her, I urged her to stop this costly behavior. It turned out to be another instance involving another guy, though the details blend together amid the recurring pattern. Once again I confronted her and once again she promised to stop. 3 tense months passed, fueling my escalating paranoia. Whenever possible, I covertly checked her phone, going through emails, texts, and photos. Among them, I found explicit pictures not intended for me. In a nutshell, she went on a lunch date with a guy and later met at a nearby park. A message after their outing revealed her desire for a more intimate encounter, lamenting the presence of bystanders. That was the breaking point. During a subsequent call, I couldn't hide my anger. I stepped out of my office to express my frustration and confronted her about the lunch date and park rendezvous. Overwhelmed with guilt, she wept, fearing the end of our marriage. Once again I relented, but I sternly warned her that no more chances would be given. This was the final ultimatum. That final chance lasted around 8 months, or perhaps even less, considering I caught her red-handed. But that brings us almost to the present. Did you know you can message people through Yelp? Well, she did, and apparently she was engaging in conversations with some local guy there. That's where I stumbled upon her most recent mischievous escapades. Soon after, she ventured into the realm of Kik Messenger. She even posted on Reddit seeking out Kik pals, and it didn't take long for her to entice a few individuals. While I haven't closely monitored her activities on Kik, I do know she has been regularly communicating with at least 2 people, and their messages are far from innocent, just friends banter. Just the other day, she needed my assistance with her phone due to some issues she was experiencing. In no time, I stumbled upon a folder containing a collection of explicit photos and videos she had sent through Kik. However, it was after this revelation that I made the decision to divorce her. Since that night when I unexpectedly found her in bed with another man, forgiveness has been hard to come by. Despite my efforts to convince myself that trust is possible and her love for me is genuine, an inner struggle persisted. I had a deep down belief that she would consistently resort to deception, creating a lasting sense of mistrust. Over the past few weeks, weighed down by years of lies, I reached a breaking point. After much internal debate and weighing pros and cons, I finally made a decision. With hesitation, I pressed the send button, sending a heartfelt message to her ex-husband via Facebook Messenger. Unsure if he would read or respond, I needed answers, and he had no reason to deceive me. To my surprise, within a mere 30 seconds I received the seen notification. Then, in just a couple of minutes, he replied, confirming that she had likely lied about him and his past. This was the conversation I had yearned for. Over the next hour and a half, We engaged in an open exchange, delving into every aspect. Remarkably, he even expressed a desire to meet in person for further discussion. It was a mutually beneficial conversation, addressing my lingering doubts about her and his own curiosities about me. I had knowingly played the role of the other man in her life. When I met her, she was still married and living with her husband. The so-called roommate turned out to be a complete fabrication. I conducted a thorough public record search on Spokeo and did find someone with the same name as the supposed roommate, living on the same street as one of my wife's previous addresses. However, her ex-husband had no knowledge of this person, leaving us to wonder if it was simply a bizarre coincidence or a neighbor he had never encountered. The truth about her father also came to light. The notion of an Italian father was entirely fabricated. Those alleged summer trips to Italy, they never occurred. In reality, she only visited Italy once as part of a school trip. Speaking of school, it turns out she did attend the public school I had suspected all along. And here's the kicker, she's not even a Catholic. Speaking of school, it turns out she did attend the public school I had suspected all along. And here's the kicker, she's not even a Catholic. So where did she disappear to during those times she claimed to be attending Sunday Mass? Probably out on more dates with random guys. And let's not forget about those 2 degrees she boasted about. After catching her with the lunch date dude, I demanded answers to the web of lies she had spun. One truth she reluctantly admitted was that she had no degrees at all. She claimed to have attended both schools but never finished either of them. However, her ex-husband revealed that she hadn't even attended those schools in the first place. Just one semester at a local college, and that was the extent of it. So even when she tried to confess some truth to me, it was just a different set of lies. She's pulled the same stunt with her ex-husband repeatedly, ran up his credit cards and left them unpaid. Relatedly basically drained my 401k through loans and early withdrawals she talked me into. Do I need to keep going on? It's all a lie. I've only scratched the surface here, but there's no time to go over all the countless transgressions. Let me share one more story she's told countless times. She claims to have lived in New York City during those days while not attending Columbia. According to her, she was in class when the tragedy happened, witnessing the fear and panic. She also mentioned knowing interns at the World Trade Center who didn't survive. She even claimed to have worked as an intern at the New York Times and had a shared byline on a front-page story published on the day after the event with the audacious claim that it was nominated for a Pulitzer Prize. It's all a web of lies. Ex-husband revealed that they never actually lived in NYC. They may have visited for some fun weekends, but they never resided there. This is deeply offensive to all the New Yorkers who experienced the tragedies of Twin Towers, and it sickens me to my core. So I've made the tough choice to end my marriage with my wife. No trial separation for us. I've given her plenty of chances to change, but it hasn't worked. Counseling won't help either. I've reached my breaking point. The trust between us is completely broken. It's heartbreaking for the sake of our kids, but it seems like the only way forward. I believe it's the right decision in the long run, but I'm honestly scared of the challenges ahead and the difficulties we'll all face. My love for my children is strong, and I only want what's best for them. Here I am, at the end of my sad story, ready for the next chapter. Where do I go from here? How can I navigate this process in the best way possible? Money is tight for me, living paycheck to paycheck. It would be great if we could avoid lawyers. Neither of us can afford one anyway. Will she play dirty when it comes to the kids? I can't predict that. The uncertainty is unsettling. Surprisingly, I don't hold any ill feelings towards her. Despite everything, I don't wish any damage on her. It may sound strange, but I don't want to fight with her once this is all over. I want us to maintain a mature co-parenting relationship after I express my desire for a divorce. I need her cooperation to ensure a smooth transition for everyone involved. There are a few challenges to consider. We don't have family nearby who can provide immediate support. They're not too far, but not close enough for us to stay with them if necessary. My wife works from home, so we need to figure out a solution for her to continue working without risking her job. She currently takes care of dropping off and picking up our kids from school, so any changes in our living arrangements must consider that. A close friend who went through a divorce last year advised me to wait until after the holidays for emotional support. Being alone during the holidays really sucks. Besides, it will give me some time to plan things out, hopefully. I need your advice on what steps to take next, any helpful resources, and ways to support my kids through this difficult time. When my parents divorced, I was 19 and managed to handle it as an adult. However, my younger brother, who was only 13 at the time, struggled a lot. Now my own kids are 5 and 8, and I'm really worried about how this will impact them. I'm seeking guidance to ensure their well-being. Please help me. By the way, in case anyone wonders, yes, she had an Ashley Madison account, but I didn't need their data breach to find that out. I discovered it during the whole ordeal on my birthday. It was just one of the mails I came across while using her phone. Second story. Didn't expect to find myself in this situation, but here I am. Over the weekend, my wife, 38F, and our 13-year-old daughter visited her mom. I couldn't join due to work, so we decided it would be a girls' weekend for them. As a firefighter in a large southern city, I was on a call when the dispatcher informed me of an emergency, though not needed on the call. I checked my phone and found several texts from my kid and a few from an unknown number. Through about 11 text messages, I discovered my daughter had gone ice skating, fallen and broken her wrist. She's in the emergency room, but my wife is nowhere to be found. The unknown number belongs to a friend of my wife's, who went to the emergency room to be with my kid, the chaperone for the girls who had gone skating. I called this friend, and after much hesitation, she admitted my wife had gone to dinner with a random guy. Due to my job, our location is always shared with the family. I pulled up an address and found it's a hotel. It was 10 p.m. Now it's almost 4 hours later and she hasn't answered my texts, but she did finally call our kid. I got permission and insurance information. My daughter got a cast and a referral to see an orthopedist when she gets home. The friend took our daughter back to her grandmother's and texted me, apologizing for the way I found out about that guy. Apparently, this has been happening every time she's gone home without me. Meanwhile, I've worked countless hours of overtime to pay off our house, take us on nice vacations, and send our daughter to the most expensive private school in our city. I feel like a fool. Following advice, I talked to a lawyer and realized she doesn't have much access to her money. I removed her as an authorized user of my credit cards, added two-factor authentication to almost everything else she might try to access. I checked my credit report and found she opened a joint credit card I didn't know about. Since I'm on the account, I logged in and printed out the charges, creating a perfect timeline of restaurants and hotels she paid for. Turns out, she also has accounts on Tinder and Bumble, discovered through recent phone bills. A friend who is a deputy sheriff will be here tonight when she gets home. I booked her a hotel room for the weekend, paid up front. She can stay there for now and figure things out on her own starting tomorrow. My daughter and I talked, and she knows what's going on and is angry at her mom. The next steps are to find someone for her to talk to. Thankfully, my job provides excellent insurance, so that's one less thing to worry about. When it was time for my wife to return, I was prepared. An old friend, a deputy sheriff, agreed to be there during our confrontation. I had already reserved a hotel room nearby for a week, paying in advance. It was a chance for her to experience the uncertainty she had brought into my life. The confrontation wasn't pleasant. Despite her pleas and apologies, I remained unmoved. I handed her the hotel room keys, instructing her to pack and leave. Although she was shocked, I stayed indifferent. My daughter, full of anger, chose to stay with me. Later, I had a tough conversation with her mother. While defending her daughter initially, she eventually acknowledged the undeniable evidence I had collected. The following weeks were chaotic. Divorce proceedings started, and my lawyer was relentless. The evidence of her infidelity played strongly in my favor. I kept the house, my daughter stayed with me, and I secured a significant portion of our assets. Meanwhile, my wife's life took a downward turn. The man she betrayed me for turned out to be a professional conman. He vanished, leaving her heartbroken and penniless. It was a tough lesson, but she was reaping what she had sown. The revenge I sought came unexpectedly. I protected my interests, ensured my daughter's well-being, and exposed her infidelity. She faced the consequences of her actions while I began rebuilding our lives. The journey wasn't easy, the pain of betrayal lingered, but I was determined to move forward. I invested time in healing, reconnecting with my daughter, and learning to trust again. In the end, the best revenge wasn't causing her pain, but showing her she hadn't broken me. I emerged from the storm stronger and more resilient, ready to face whatever life had in store. Despite everything, I felt a strange sense of gratitude. The betrayal set off events that led to a better understanding of myself. I wasn't a fool as I initially thought. I was a survivor.